Board of Licenses Commissioners. Second-hand dealer's license for Lulu's Crazy Daisy. Tell us a little bit about your shop, ma'am.
Crazy Daisy has been already in Smithfield for about 6 years now. I've been working for Christine for almost 5, and she's decided to put the business up for sale. We sell upscale, used clothing, shoes, accessories for women, excuse me, and she's decided to sell, and I made an offer, and she's accepted the offer.
If I'm not mistaken, 706 St. Clair, is that right across the street from the fire station?
Correct.
That's in the building that's been rehabbed. It looks great. Did a lot of good work over there, Mr. President.
Previous years, were they located in the Bridge House Plaza?
Yes, we were.
Okay, all right, I'm familiar with the business, yes, all right.
Mr. President, if I may make a motion to approve a license for Crazy Daisy. Individual's name is Laurie Villardo. We have a BCIC, Bureau of Criminal Investigation check. We have the building inspectors, okay. We have the fire marshals, okay. We have the tax collector's office, okay. I'd like the motion to approve a license for Crazy Daisy.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Zawinski, second by Councilman Nato. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Elks? Mrs.
If I
Nato?
could stop for 1 second, stop, if I may, Mr. Solicitor. Name of applicant, corporation name is John Perry, but we'll be giving this license to Laurie Villard. Is that correct? Just want to make sure I see how it's written there.
I believe that's who
The owner.
the applicant is.
Has to be done that way?
John Perry,
He's
but
the
it's
owner of the
DBA
property.
Crazy Daisy.
Yeah, we'll be getting the license too.
I will be the owner of Crazy Daisy. He is the owner of the building.
Yeah,
I think that's correct.
it is correct.
I see the arrow there, but I think it works.
May I call you Laurie?
Yes, you
I
are.
want to make sure in your best interest that
Yep.
this goes to you.
Yes.
Okay, and it does. Okay, sorry. I just,
No, it's all right. Great questions, fully understand that.
Ms. Elks?
Yes.
Mrs. Nato?
Yes.
Mr. Solly?
Yes.
Mr. Zawinski?
Yes.
Mr. Boucher?
Yes.
Thank you.
congratulations, Laurie.
Discussion by, item number 7 on the docket. Discussion by council of what other action on proposed charter amendments, including but not limited to town administrator versus town manager. This is the second public hearing that we're going to have on this matter. First one was approximately 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago. And so we'll open this up for the public to speak either for or against.
Hello, Kristen Fontaine, 79 Court Ave, Smithfield. I just wanted to start with a question. How many of you have heard of the We the People program? Just a show of hands.
We did what
We
program?
the People program.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys do. So the We the People program, if anyone is not familiar with it, is a program focused on democracy that is taught in our 9th grade classrooms in Smithfield High School. This program is what inspired me personally to pursue a career in government and pursue a career focused on democracy. And our town has won the We the People program for the state of Rhode Island 9 consecutive years in a row and has traveled to Washington, D.C. in the national competition. I'm sure you guys are very aware of this because you give money to the program every year, which they are very thankful for. But what I wanted to bring this up about was that the We the People program is such an important part of the North Smithfield High School culture, and it prepares our students to be active members of their democracy. Democracy is such an important idea that is taught in the We the People program, and I am an alumni of the We the People program, and it was so inspiring about democracy and focus on democracy, and it made me, as well as all of my peers, excited to be an active member of my democracy when I got of age to vote. Now I'm 19, I'm a sophomore in college, and I go vote all the time. I'm such an active member of democracy. But this proposition would absolutely kill democracy in the town of North Smithfield. And I see a few people rolling eyes at me, and I don't want you to not take me seriously just because I'm 19. I am a poli-sci major, and I have done extensive research in this area, and I have looked at the facts, and I understand that a lot of other towns have a town manager as opposed to a town administrator, but that doesn't make it any less right. That doesn't make it, that's not okay. So the We the People program is such an important part of our town, and we're preparing our young people to be active members of our democracy. Then when they get old enough to vote, they can't even elect their town officials. That is absolutely demoralizing for our students, and it's teaching them that they can't have a voice in their government. I don't understand how that is okay to teach our young people who are the next generation of our town. Now, in college, as a passionate person about democracy, I'm working on a program called Generation Citizen, which is actually promoting youth voice and democracy in town, and I'm actually doing that in Brockton, Massachusetts. And it kind of saddens me that I'm working on promoting democracy and getting youth voice in a town in Brockton, Massachusetts, when it's not even available in my own town. If this would go through, and if this would be approved by our voters, God forbid, it would absolutely destroy the democracy that we would have in the town of North Smithfield. In 2014, I was a senior, and obviously I was up here talking at every single town council meeting in that dreaded budget crisis that I'm sure everyone remembers. And something that I've seen and that everyone I've talked to has seen since that point is a power grab. And this is exactly what that is. Me and all of my peers and everyone I have talked to has seen this active power grab that this is exemplifying. If we have a town manager that's not elected as opposed to a town administrator, that just proves that we have people on our elected officials, on our town council and everything, that don't want to voice the opinions of our people and of our citizens. To have an elected position, you're ensuring that we have a person in office that is representing our opinions and what we would want in a town. I understand that the town manager has a lot of qualifications that maybe a town administrator would not have, but the biggest qualification of all is a voice in democracy. And I think it would be absolutely terrible and absolutely horrible for the town of North Smithfield to have an appointed town manager as opposed to an elected town manager. And I'm here on behalf of not only me, but all of my peers, and obviously I'm the youngest one here, and I'm representing the voice of the young population in North Smithfield. And it's not just me, it's everyone else, and we are all terrified for this question to be put on the ballot because we are scared that it would actually go through and would actually demote democracy in our country, in our town. Towns are supposed, they say states are laboratories of democracy for the country, but even more so, towns are laboratories of democracy for the state. And if we can't even have a state government that's elected by the people, the first thing you learn about government is that it's of the people, by the people, for the people. To have an appointed town administrator, that is not of the people, that is not by the people, it's by the 5 people that appoint them. So I'm just here to voice my opinion and the opinion of all my peers that have been through our school system that promotes democracy, to say that we should be a town that is devoted to democracy. And this ballot question will not do that.
Meg, have you taken a copy of the proposed changes? Do you have a
Yes, I've
copy?
read them.
Okay. You know, there's a whole process, there's a screening process that we'll be going through. These people will be from boards and commissions in town. They're going to rank, they'll rank the candidates, and the final, they will be passed on, lead to the council for a vote.
I understand.
And I've had people tell me that, oh, it's going to do this, it's going to do that. Because a few years ago when it was on the ballot, I voted against it because of the wording. The wording was terrible. Great idea, but bad follow-up, so to speak. And this cleans up all the concerns that the other ballot choice didn't address. So we can agree to disagree. Believe me, I can understand where you're coming from, but there's 22 cities and towns who have town managers or city managers. It seems to work for them. It gives you continuity of government, and it also has the educational and the experience to govern a community, whereby if someone just comes off the street, so to speak, they have to learn the job for 2 years. And I'm sure it was the young lady behind you was a former town administrator and 20 years as town manager in East Bridgewater. So, I mean, and she'll, like I said, she'll later speak tonight to give you some of the insight of her journey to where she had come from before and the shortcomings of an elected position as well. I'm not trying to shut you down in any way, shape, or form. Continue on with it.
Okay, I just wanted to respond to that. I would not come up here and talk to you guys if I hadn't read through the proposed changes, so I just wanted to make that clear. I would make sure I'm aware of what's happening before I would come up here and talk to you guys. And I know that there are 22 towns in Rhode Island or around that have appointed town managers, and I'm very aware of them. I've actually talked to some of them at Stonehill, where I attend school. But there's a difference between our town and a lot of other towns. North Smithfield is a very unique town that I'm sure you guys have been aware of. And like I said, since that budget crisis of 2014, there's been an evident power grab where a lot of positions have become appointed rather than elected. So to say that a lot of the people that would be like candidates for town manager would be from those councils, that's not saying that it's still an elected position. They could still be an appointed position, and that's still not voicing the opinions of our people. So I think I get that you want, obviously I would want a qualified person in the position of town administrator. That's not something I'm against. I completely understand the need for a qualified person in the position of town administrator, but to just do it all underhandedly and without the people's voice, I think that is wrong, and that would not represent what the people want in the town of North Smithfield and not represent what the town of North Smithfield stands for as a whole.
I disagree with what you just said. That's why we're having these open hearings. So to voice concern, it's not underhanded. Everything is above board.
Well, I understand, but the whole process of appointing a person rather than electing them, to do it for the town administrator who says that now maybe all the town council is appointed. Like, you've already appointed people to the school committee.
That's because we have the power as the town council to do that when there's resignations. That's part of our charter.
Well, I'm just here to voice my opinion and the opinion of the young people of the town of North Smithfield, who is the future of our town, to say that I think this proposition is corrupt. This proposition would not advance the wants of North Smithfield, and a town like North Smithfield, this would not benefit our town. That's much different than our town.
Mr. President, if I may interject just quickly. One thing that you stated is kind of sticking with me a little bit. You stated that removing the vote for town administrator would remove democracy in the town. Therefore, you don't want the question on the ballot because you're scared it would pass. Putting the question on the ballot is democracy. If it passes, it's the will of the voters. The council is here to listen and to help make a determination if enough people do want this to be placed on the ballot. And from feedback that I've heard so far, it seems about split, where some people are for it and some people are against it. But it is our duty to put it before the voters so they can decide. If they choose that they don't want an appointed official heading our town, then it's status quo.
I completely agree with you that putting it on the ballot is democracy. I understand that was an oversight on my part in voicing that. Another issue that reminded me of another issue about this topic is that you're planning to put it on the presidential primary ballot, which, like, statistically has a much less voter turnout. And therefore, you're hoping that people that know of it and will go and approve it rather than deny it will go. And it's kind of just a corrupt deal, kind of trying to put it on the presidential primary ballot, knowing that it won't be the majority of the town that's going to vote for it.
Mr. President, may I speak to?
Good.
Ms. Fontaine, thank you. Now, when I was up here smiling, I was agreeing. Okay. Wasn't rolling my eyes. It's refreshing to see people get involved, but to see the youth get involved, it's really profiles and courage. And for you to come up here with those convictions and articulate your point, it holds a lot of promise for our future. I don't know where your career is going to take you in the future. I hope you'll be living in North Smithfield and help us govern this town in the future. You brought up some excellent points about primaries and general elections. As Council Nato said, it would be a democratic process to let the people vote. This is actually the second time that it's going to go out for a vote, may go out for a vote. It's the third time. I've been up here it's my 6th term. This is the 3rd time it's come before us. And every time I've said, I am for electing the town administrator. You may not appreciate what President Obama has done. You may not appreciate what all of his predecessors have done. But the acceptance theory of voting in for democratic, the people speak for whom they want to represent them. Thank you for coming this evening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, what's going on?
Christine?
Christine, thank you very much for your input. I just wanted to touch on something you brought up about the presidential primary numbers. I actually, at the last public hearing, had Madam Clerk pull those numbers for me because that was a concern of mine. As you know, in town politics, I ran a special election. 8% of the voter turnout came out of an election. So when we were discussing it last time, one of my main concerns was if we're going to have a special election for this, 8% is not the will of the people. Madam Clerk did pull the numbers, and depending on the year of the presidential primary, so the 2008 presidential primary was one of the major presidential primaries with Obama and Hillary Clinton, and there was a 30% voter turnout that year in the presidential primary, which was by far, going back to 2000, the largest primary turnout. They all hover in the 14 to 20%, except for the 2012 election. The 2012 election, we were at roughly 4% voter turnout for the presidential primary. However, you had an incumbent running, and there was really no qualified candidates in the pool. That being said, I do believe you'll have a higher voter turnout this year in the presidential primary because you have a list of candidates, Republican and Democrat. You're going to have a slate of candidates there. So I do believe you're going to see that number trend upward as well. And the fact that you'll have a local ballot item on there, I do believe you would see that number go up as well.
I was just going to say, maybe just a suggestion if we're expecting high numbers, maybe just promote this change a little more. Because I heard it through a Valley Breeze article, but maybe it was just kind of a very tiny Valley Breeze article, and I just heard about it like 2 days ago. So maybe just promoting this charter change a little bit more so people are aware of it, because a lot of people I've talked to actually aren't even aware of it.
Oh, and I agree. I agree that we're doing everything we can to put more word out there. You know, one thing I will say is I received an email earlier, right after the last public hearing, discussing where the language was on the town's website. We found it a couple days later on the left-hand side. I sent Madam Administrator an email and Mr. Parley an email asking that it be moved to the center of the website and highlighted so residents could easily find it. Like I said, I ran an election that was 8%. That's not the will of the people.
Yeah.
It isn't. I'm not gonna make any lie about it, fool myself. But the numbers, like I said, when there seems to be a presidential primary, there does seem to be better numbers. When there's qualified, when you have an actual true primary, like we're going to have this year. And I do understand your concerns, and that's why we do have these public forums. And I appreciate you as a youth in this town, or a young adult, I should say, coming forward and voicing your opinion and your concern. And the more people we get involved, the better this community is going to be. So thank you.
Thank you.
Christine, just one last thing, if I may. Is that what would take place is that if you want to vote in the Democratic primary, it would be a blue ballot, and you could vote your preference, and on that ballot will be the ballot question. If you're a Republican, if you decide to vote in a Republican primary, there'll be a yellow ballot, and what's going to take place will be the same question on that ballot. And if you don't want to vote in either primary, there'll be a white ballot with only the town administrator, town manager question on it. Doesn't impinge, you don't have to declare anything. For those who want to go in, They can go in as an independent, vote either Democrat or Republican, sign the affidavit, brings them back to an independent voter, and then you're out the door. So you're not forcing anybody to declare anything.
I understand.
It is their choice. The availability will be there.
Thank you.
Your point on advertising is very, very well taken though,
Okay.
because I do want it to be the will of the people.
Mhm.
And I would be more worried, people come out and speak to the negative more than they do to the positive. People that agree usually just don't speak up, but people that disagree, like you, are more passionate and are willing to come out and speak their voice, and just the nature of people. With a smaller turnout, I would be more worried that it wouldn't pass than with a larger one. So I would like to authorize for some of the extra money that we saved go to advertising, to put out a campaign, and nothing to skew for or against, just to advertise we're having a special election running parallel with the primary.
If I may, and to elaborate on that, is the way to come in, and if you choose not to vote in either Republican or Democratic, make it very clear that people can come out and just take the white ballot. They don't have to
Absolutely.
go through that process. They just come and vote. I think that's enough for now.
It will take advertising and it will take education. And I really appreciate someone of your age being so passionate. I love to see that.
We can retire now, yeah?
I would run, but I do got school, so I can't. It's stopping me.
Okay, next individual would like to speak? Mrs. Drangle?
Carol Dranville, 750 Mount Hill Road. I'd like to, this is quite an act to follow. I think she's got quite a future. My concern is that whether or not this goes on the ballot is not the first thing I'm thinking of right now. What I'm thinking of is, if there's a change, if we do have a town manager, we have an amendment to the charter that affects the school committee. And nothing seems to be on the referendum that's going to change this. First of all, I have to state that I was totally against this change because I believe that my voting rights were taken away. Two people, and I'm not talking about personalities, I'm talking about the situation. Two people are appointed to the school committee. Voters have no voice in it. Every 3-2 vote on the school committee can be overturned by these two appointed people. I don't see any democracy in that. I was appalled by it. Now, if we have a town manager, we have the town administrator's vote for the 7th person won't be there. So we will have an even number on the school committee, and we'll have a crippled school committee.
That is not fact, I believe that's not factual. What could take place, either, my preference would be, the town manager would be able to appoint one, so he could have.
The town manager is a hired person.
Right.
And then you'll have to rewrite this amendment.
And that amendment will be
And you will
changed.
rewrite that amendment to say that a hired person can take preference over the voters?
Unless you
That a town manager?
want the council to appoint to. The whole reason why that
Well,
came into.
then you know what we will have? We will have a town council who has carte blanche. There's no division of power. Is that where we're going here? This is not a democracy.
Well, the reason why they came into being is because of all the difficulties that the town had getting information from the past school departments.
Well, you know what? That's a personality problem.
No, from the council, from the school committee. And so the voters, it would be for the charter change, would be for the voters who granted us to appoint one from,
Right,
one by the town
36.
administrator and one from the council.
Right, and now I'm telling you that if the administrator's position is not there, then you will have to rewrite that, and you would rewrite it to give the town manager preference over the voters?
It's just a-
May I ask a question? Mr. Chamberlain, you actually brought up a good point. I have some notes written on mine right here. A resident that couldn't be here tonight asked me to ask these questions, and they kind of piggyback on what you're stating right now. So if you don't mind, can I ask these questions of our solicitor? Okay. Mr. Solicitor, currently for section, Article 16, Section 1 of our charter, amendments shall be made in the manner provided by the Constitution of the state, and that states that a charter commission must be formed. The resident that asked me the question wants to know if this qualifies as a charter commission review. That's the first question we had.
The alternative way to amend the charter and under the Constitution is for the town council to promote it,
Okay.
which is public hearing.
Okay, thank you. And the second thing he asked me to ask was, could there be any legal ramifications should we adopt the charter change but not amend all of the parts of the charter that specifically identify the town administrator as an appointer of positions?
Yes, you're gonna, right now, the consideration is whether or not you want to have a town manager or a town, elected town administrator or appointed town manager. The council would then have to remove all the appointment powers of the town administrator and I would
Rewrite the
recommend,
language
and
for every
it would
other.
ultimately become council appointments. There would no longer be any town manager appointment. There might be hires, but as far as boards and commissions, and normally even school committee, that's normally school committee members, any board and commission is normally appointed by the highest elect, shared between the executive or the legislative branch. You got to appointment power. It's very unusual to have a hired person appoint a board or commission member.
But it could
I
be,
know that you could do it.
but it could be done.
Mr.
I
President,
would think that, just so we're clear, that the school committee would not be reduced to 6. You would keep it 7. It's just about who would have that appointment power of the 7th person. It would seem to me that everywhere it says appointed by the administrator would be appointed by the council. That change should be made consistent throughout the charter. That would be my recommendation, but it's your decision as council.
Yeah, I had just pulled off a couple articles from our charter, and it said, duties shall be performed by town administrator or person appointed by them, appointed or promoted by the town administrator. So all that language would have to be changed.
Well, no. As far as administrative functions, department heads,
Yeah.
that's all, those appointments would be still, those would be town manager.
But his
Any
question,
board of commission.
right, but his question was, is there a legal ramification by the language saying administrator versus if we elect, like, would all that have to change was his question. And if it does have to change, would there be charter review for all of that as well?
The changes would be
Would have to,
anything that has to do with a board or commission. That appointment would have to be done, and my recommendation would be by the council. So instead of administrator who's elected, the council who's elected would make those appointments. With regard to appointing employees, hiring employees, appointing subordinates within the administrative function of the town manager's office, a building inspector, those remain appointed employees of the town manager, if you were to change it.
okay.
And the charter review process, you can change the charter in one of 2 ways. I just want to emphasize again, you can have a charter review, or the council can promote a charter change after 2 public hearings.
Okay.
So you can do it either way.
Mr. Jalen, did that clarify anything that you were looking to?
But those are your choices, those are choices.
I think what it says, what you're saying is that the council would be in charge of all of those appointments.
That would be my recommendation, that it should, appointments to boards and commissions. I don't make that decision, but my recommendation would not to have appointments to board or commissions or something like a school committee by hired people. They should be by elected people.
Right, I agree.
But that's the council's decision. But
And what I'm looking at is because we had that written and it was, it's legal, I find that I don't think it has merit you know, as far as being part of a democratic government. And the way I'm looking at it now is that if we do choose to have a town manager, that basically the council will run the town. We won't have any division of power. I think that's basically what this is saying.
Right, it's the form of government
As
change.
it stands now, because we had all of these charter changes that, and I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but to take a 5-member elected school committee and make it 7 and make 2 appointments, which take away the vote of the residents of the town. That's my problem. I don't think that's democratic.
Mr. President, can I just interject one point?
Good,
Just so the council's clear, the public's clear. The concept that's being promoted in this change by the council, at the end of the day, when you finish your work, wherever that is, would have to be subject to making all the necessary changes throughout the charter to reflect the change before it's put on the ballot. Just like you would need to put an effective date, which is not in here. You know, there are technical things. My advice would be, even after this public hearing, to continue to the next public hearing to a final draft with all those kinds of changes. What's been floated thus far is the concept, right? The concept of, do you want a town administrator, or do you want a town manager? Once that's been vetted, so to speak, both publicly and to the council, then obviously the charter needs to be thoroughly reviewed and all the necessary changes need to be made. And an effective date would have to be considered prior to placing it on the ballot. So there would be changes in the school committee, changes in all the boards and commissions. It would be reflective throughout the entire charter.
Mr. President, I already have that charter draft. I worked on that in July with Mr. Clifford and Mr. Rathman. So I will transfer that to you, and then you can present it as draft, because I believe that you're working with Ms. Clifford's draft go on it as part of the Charter Review Commission.
Yes. Is
So,
anyone-
Mr. President,
I'm sorry.
just to interject again, then that ultimately, that draft should be circulated prior, to another meeting. We
Right.
go through-
Except, Mr. President, may I? Solicitor Iglesias used the word promoted by the council. This council member is not, I know, I just want to make sure. I'm reviewing the concept, but I am not promoting the change from administrator to town manager. If it looks like the vote is going to go 3 or 4 to 1 or whatever the case may be, I would make sure that, I just want to make sure that we do not lose sight of the checks and balances that we have in place. Ms. Drainville, Brian, hi. The whole idea of appointment, as you well know, I don't mean to correct you, I just want to make sure, I got to work this out in my head too, so it refreshes my memory. The whole reason for the appointment of 2 members, 5 members were going to be elected to the school committee. 2 members were going to be appointed, one by the town administrator and one by the collective town council. That was the voice of the people. When they came in and they changed that at the last election. So the populace in North Smithfield said, yes, that's what they want to see. 5 elected and 2 appointed by different checks and balances of the administrator and of the council. Any other appointments which recently took place was for people stepping down or...
I understand.
I know you do, but maybe, I just had to go through it, so maybe some other people didn't.
Right,
I know you understand it probably better than I do. But-
I'm basically, but I was against it, I voted against it, it won by 36 votes, it was at an off election. I know it won, and it's legal. I don't think it's ethical, I don't think it's democratic. And now I see that we're going to have another change, and it wasn't clear how that was going to be handled. I will never be for that because I feel my voice has been taken away. That's, it's a very simple construct. The superintendent is elected, is hired. 5 people on the school committee represent the taxpayers. Now we have these, this is nothing personal about anybody. No names, just the whole construct of this amendment. Why do we have 2 people appointed? That leaves it wide open for abuse. And I was at a school committee meeting, the last school committee meeting that I attended. There was a vote, and one person decided not to vote, or didn't want to vote on the issue, and said, "I'd like to keep good representation with the council." Now, this is somebody who was supposed to be representing the taxpayers. That was kind of an odd statement. And this is what happens in appointments. And I'm not saying this is what happened with these appointments. I'm just saying it leaves an opportunity for abuse of power. And that's why I was against it from the beginning. And now I see this, and we're making another change, but this is like throwing balls in the air. What's going to happen when, if there is a change, then we have a situation on our hands.
Anyone else like to speak on the proposal, on the charter change?
Good evening, councilors, administrator. My name is Douglas Haddon. I live at 163 Great Road. And as of last week, my wife and I have lived in town for 19 years. I too was shocked when I saw in the Valley Breeze that the fundamental form of government of the town was on the verge of being changed or being put up for a vote for change. And there was one more opportunity in public to address our officials about that. This is a sea change. This is a change in the government of the town that has been here for decades. Now, if that's done, properly, people are informed, which they're not. We have fewer people here tonight than a Coventry Fire District did last week when the friends and relatives and spouses came in and voted an extra $400,000 for the district because the public didn't realize what they should have, but they didn't realize what was at stake. We have 24 people here now that we've lost the Crazy Daisy entrepreneurs here. That might have put us a little bit over that. Very few people are here. You're changing the form of government from check and balance of administrator and council, administrative and legislative, to a councilmanic form of government, where the council is, the town manager becomes the creature of the council, not of the voters. Now, there are many communities that have seen that that's the right way to go. And if this community sees that's the right way to go, I really don't have a problem with it. What I do have a problem with, at a very fundamental level, and I'm not the youngest person in the room, but I did major in political science, is that, as Thomas Jefferson said, a government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. 24 people on the doorstep of Christmas Eve, a primary time to a vote time to the state primary in April. The state itself has been moving that date around. They did it last time because they couldn't get enough response. They felt they didn't have enough clout. It's been a moving target for them. Nobody even realizes when that is. Whereas if you want to get the consent of the government in a fair way, you hold this in the fall, where you get a really good reading on it. Now, the thing about, if we're going to save 10,000, that's like, buy now. Anytime I hear that kind of thing, I go, yeah, what? I'm saving. What am I losing? Well, we're losing the just consent of the government here for, really, I don't know if that's $10,000. little skeptical on that, but be that as it may. You hold it in the fall, you get a good turnout. And what happens is you get a decision that people say, you know, I didn't agree with it, but it was a fair decision, everybody had their shot, the whole town voted, this is what we do. And to say that somebody's gonna be a lame duck is to predict the outcome, that the voters themselves are going to decide. Nobody gets to decide that, nobody gets to, I worked for many years as a reporter. Times I got myself in trouble was when I went to try and predict the future. I said this was gonna happen, you don't know what's gonna happen. That's not fair, that's not fair to the voters. So, if this is going to go forward, if there's going to be this, put this up again for whatever reason, for the second time in 5 years, be that as it may. But don't do it like this. Don't do it on the primary in April where, how many people are going to turn out for the Democratic primary if Hillary Clinton is presumptively, really, almost Republicans, you think, how many people are going to really turn out for that? I think that's chimerical to believe that that's going to happen. So I think if it's going to go forward, do it right. Do it deliberately. Don't do it in a hurry, like when you don't count the second floor of a building when you're putting out your bond issue. Just for one of the wonderful things in the town that, wouldn't have happened if things went in such a hurry. That all turned out right in the long run. But, don't be in a hurry. This is a sea change. This is a fundamental change to the form of government in this town, and it deserves to be well considered, well advertised, well discussed, and voted on by as many people as you can foster to do that. Thank you.
What's the problem? Can't move people forward.
Good, sir.
Hello, my name is Dan Geer. My wife and I operate a horse farm on County Road, Phoenix Rising. We've been here, let me think about that a second. We're just short of 20 years. I didn't really come to speak particularly for or against this. I just want to say that I am older than I look and I've been elsewhere. And I can say, having lived under a city manager type arrangement, I just want to warn you about one thing, and that is, at first it's really good. It's the long run that matters. And the long run issue is that councilors such as yourselves may in fact appoint the first one or the second one and so forth. But over the long haul, the city manager captures the council. To the extent that the election of any given individual is based on how good do they do, for example, constituent service, that can only be gotten from the manager. To the extent that the manager builds a reputation that has a longer tail than the council, it goes on for years and years, that's an issue. To the extent that the manager is especially good, the odds are that someone else will try to poach them for more money and you'll find yourself in that game. Again, I've lived where that was the rule of thumb. I viewed it as unfortunate. If this does come to a vote, I'll probably vote no. I'm not here to argue that. I'm just here to say that in so many words, be careful what you ask for. And to be careful what you ask for in this case is that over the long run, just like a lot of industries have captured their regulators, the manager will probably capture the council. And so if you're going to go down this route, you've got to think long and hard about that. Maybe you do term limits, maybe you do something else, I don't know. But failing to anticipate that the balance of power eventually goes to those with seniority. It will be the manager that has it and it won't be you. And that's speaking from experience. I can go down that path as long as you like. I spent 30 years working on this kind of problem in another place. It doesn't matter here. One of the things I like about this is that it's frankly smaller. I like small. I just want to warn you that it's quite possible, and I would say proved by demonstration, that the manager can capture the council in the long run. Thank you.
Hi folks, Mike Regan, 10 Railroad Street, apartment 223W. I, unlike the lovely eloquent lady maybe have not read the full 22 pages. I have read the part of the requirements that you people are gonna have for that job. We run a, can we agree, roughly a $40 million business? And we're gonna let someone with what would seem to be not a lot of credentials have that job. So my question to you folks is, only, and I'm not throwing stones at anybody, certain things have happened in this town that are very confusing to others. For those of you who've been in town for years, you may nod your head, you may not nod your head. Transparency is what is clearly needed within this. Because there are already some things going around town that are floating around that ask a lot of questions about a town manager. I'm not here to say I'm for or against. We're a $40 million business. We don't run it like a $40 million business. So the question is, can we have that clearly? What is the requirements? What are clear expectations for if somebody would happen to resign and somebody could happen to be put into that spot, does that then fulfill the like work experience that will be on there? So what I'm trying to ask is, hypothetically, let's really think about this, because I do agree completely with everything that's been said here tonight. It's not right. We do have something already in place called term limits. We all know that doesn't work very well. Because again, it goes back to, as this gentleman just said, where'd he go? It's the machine. We're feeding the machine. It's not right either way, however we do it. But what I'm also saying is, I've been in this town for almost 12 years or so now, and every year I've been in this town, we got a budget issue, we got this issue, we got that issue. We got a new person appointed to a committee that then basically went a little crazy in my mind to go after one individual. That got a lot of legs. That still has a lot of legs. I have a problem with that. I may be the only person who does, but I have a problem with that. This going forward doesn't look right. And we're a $40 million business. $10,000 is not a lot of money for this can get, so this can get out there and everybody can know the right, the wrong way. Let them do it, not force it. This seems to be being forced down somebody's throat to happen within a time frame. That leads me to question why. What's the rationale behind that? Because as Mr. Lozinski said, this has happened several times before. What's the rush? Why now? Why does it need to be forced like this? Because that's what I feel is being done. So that's all I got. So thank you.
Good evening, Paul Soares, Sales Hill Road. I haven't even made my mind up on this yet. I've heard some very good arguments and opinions on both sides. Some people who I respect greatly supporting this. And again, I've heard some people tonight make some excellent points. There's one thing that I'm concerned with. To say I haven't even made up my mind yet, but we've seen some shenanigans in this town in the past with councils that are divided 3-2, always 3-2. And I'm not talking about the current council, I'm talking past. I've been in town 30 years. There's one line in the proposal that I read that I wonder if it could be changed. And I'm okay, I'm fine with democracy, with it going to the ballot, let the voters decide. But it says that the town manager shall be appointed by the town council on a 3-2 vote. A vote of 3, it only takes 3. Would it be feasible or possible, legal, to require a unanimous appointment or a supermajority of 4 out of 5? I'd be a whole lot more comfortable with that if this thing passes.
Mr. Soares, I absolutely agree with you.
Because, as I said, we've seen some things in the past that I wouldn't want to see repeated. So that's my question. If you could change that, I'd be a lot more comfortable with it. I'm still not sure I like it or not, because I like to vote for the person in the office.
George Dawes, 16 Wildwood Road. I had no intention of speaking tonight, but I'm going to. First, I want to thank Mr. Solly for checking in the numbers on the previous elections. Appreciate that very much. I heard a couple of words way too many times. One of them was appointment. I heard appointment at least 7 times. I don't like that word at all. I don't like it. I also heard the word ethics. Took a course at Bryant College several years ago on ethics. Ethics, and I'm not accusing anyone of being unethical, that's not what I'm saying, but it's the appearance of ethics, of what's unethical. It doesn't matter if it's unethical, against the law, illegal, or anything. If someone feels it's unethical, then it is. I know people look at me like I'm strange. That's what I learned at Bryant College. Maybe I shouldn't have learned it, maybe I took it, but that struck me. It was about the time of the banking crisis when I was attending school there. So ethics was a very important issue to the state of Rhode Island at that time. And I strongly feel this should be put to the vote in a regular election, not a primary. I feel very strongly about that, and I really think that it is unethical to slip this through in a primary election. That's all I got.
Tony Gerben, 8 Country Way. I hope you all paid close attention to what Kristen Fontaine had to say. She did an excellent job, and I'm asking myself, why? Why are we doing this? Why now? I mean, it was just a few years ago that the town said no, and why are we doing it again? I've heard some people say that when it was last on the ballot, that it was poorly written. Well, I'm reading right from the town's website the qualifications for town manager, and I think it's poorly written again. And I'll tell you why. To read verbatim from what's on the town's website, the town council shall by a vote of 3 town council members appoint a town manager with the following minimum qualifications: bachelor's or master's degree. Which is it? Can any of you answer that? Which is it? Sounds pretty wide open to me. With a concentration in public administration, finance, or accounting, or a related field from an accredited college or university. What does that mean? Or related experience. I mean, again, this is way too subjective. And besides the concerns that Mrs. Drainel brought out as far as the language and the rest of the charter, I don't see how you can support this. It's way too subjective. It's wide open. This language is not well written. 5 years managerial experience, bargaining, financial management, capital improvement, strong. Here's another subjective one. Strong leadership, motivational, and interpersonal/communication skills. Again, what does that mean? It's entirely subjective. The town council will be in a position to diminish democracy in this town by selecting someone they feel arbitrarily meets these qualifications. I think this language is terrible. And if you put this forward on a ballot, and again, as I publicly mentioned, I'm torn on this. I can see the value in having a professional, but I also see the value in democracy. And democracy is slowly but surely being diminished in the town of North Smithfield. And it needs to stop. I hope you take notice of that. I'm afraid that the current administration has basically destroyed the role of town administrator in this town. I feel strongly that can come back. Please think hard about this. Thank you.
Roger Fontaine, Coleric Ave. I got just 3 points I want to make. Certainly, I can't speak as eloquently as my daughter did, because I'm not a poli-sci major. But 3 things that caught my ear tonight, and I wasn't going to speak, but with all due respect, Bob, you had said that this particular proposal was not as bad as the last one. You didn't like the wording of the last one. So this one has been cleaned up and has been fixed. And all I've heard since this started is people complaining about the wording, about one thing after another. It doesn't seem like this has been vetted out properly, and I think it's just as bad as everything else that has been ever put before us in this type of thing. And that we're gonna put this up for ballot again, it just does not make sense to me at all. It doesn't look like it's been fixed. And now I hear that it's gonna be amended again to make the changes that have to be made, the technical changes, I guess, whatever. And what is that all about, and why are we here if we're not even voting on that? So what other changes are gonna be made that we're not even gonna be aware of? And if this is the last chance that we've got to speak on it, when do we get the chance to speak on the changes that are gonna be put forth? So that is a huge concern of mine. And talk about a failure of democracy. This just speaks volumes of more of the shadiness that everyone just seems to be alluding to. So if anything, I would table this vote, not put it on an election at this time, do it right, get the thing vetted completely and written up, and that's what you present to the people to talk about, and that's what the people can now speak about and read, not propose stuff. I mean, it just looks like we're wasting our time now based on what I'm hearing. The other thing too I want to do is just reconfirm that a 3-2 vote is not a perfect vote to put in a town administrator. It needs to be unanimous. If it's not unanimous, it makes absolutely no sense. It's not the way I would run a business, and it's not the way we should run our town. And thirdly, to put it on any ballot, I think it should be written into the, if it ever gets to a ballot, it should be written in such that a majority of the town has to pass it, not just the majority of who voted, because if we only get a 3% turnout and the majority votes it in, that's not a voice of the people. Again, democracy has not been taken care of. It's democracy of 3%. I think it should be set up where the majority of the people, more like a 60%, it has to pass by a huge majority of the people in the town. If we don't get that percentage, then it shouldn't pass. Because again, this is a huge, as everyone has said, this is a huge change to our charter. I've been in this town for 30 years, and I've seen more than I care to see happen in this town. And this by far is the worst I have ever seen. It's the worst I've seen our government run in the past 30 years. The last 3 years I've witnessed stuff that I thought I'd never see in a small town with regards to transparency and just overall operation of the town. So, three things. It doesn't look like this vote or this amendment or this proposal has been vetted properly. It's no better than anything else we've seen. So I take exception to what you said, Bob, with all due respect. It is not any better than what you saw the last time. It's worse. We need to get the majority of the town council to vote an administrator if it ever gets put that way, and it needs the majority of the town to vote this in, not just 3% of the town. It needs to be a full majority. If it's not, then it's not the voice of the people. Thanks.